Hello, everyone. Can you guys all hear me? Yes? All right, cool. Mic's working. Welcome. Well, we have a very exciting time today, right? Talking about how chain abstraction will power this cycle's DeFi blue chips. And want to welcome, three great speakers here from various worldly kind of VC funds. And maybe we'll start off with some intros. First, we'll have Conley.
Hi, everybody. My name is Colton. I'm a principal at Arrington Capital. We're a Web3 venture fund and hedge funds. Been around since 2018. We are investors in Near from the early days and really excited about everything they're working on with chain abstraction and moving DeFi forward.
Awesome. Thank you. Richard?
Hi, folks. Richard Muirhead from Fabric Ventures. I'm a co-founder and managing partner there. We've been operating in what we call the open web space, so specialized compute, self-sovereignty, and AI since about 2012, actually. And I've been also on the Near Foundation Council for more than 5 years now, so I'm kind of bag holder and got responsibilities to boot. Excited to be here. Apparently there's 31,000 people online watching, which is fantastic. I hope that's not measured in the same way in which TVL is measured.
All right, James?
Hello, everyone. James Wu, founder and CEO of DFG. So we are a $1 billion investment firm in the industry for the last 10 years. We've been early investing into a few protocols like Bitcoin, Ether, and Near as well. So we're excited about the future of Near and keep supporting the ecosystem.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Mee. I'm the head of partner development, VC, and investment relations here at Near Foundation. And really, today, I really want to talk about chain abstraction and DeFi. And if you guys were live watching yesterday, kind of I think Demo described them as the Near ecosystem's Avengers, highlighting kind of what went live with the intents and chain abstraction. I think it's really exciting, kind of interesting at what it could bring about. So first question for the panel is really to see what's your guys' view on the current stage of chain abstraction, and what would you guys be most interested in, whether it's from a fund perspective or maybe from a personal perspective, and excited about that. So why don't we start off with James?
Yeah, I think this is still very early stage for chain abstraction. So the point, we have a lot of new users coming into the space, right? So non-crypto people coming into the crypto space. But first, they just download the wallet, using the token, using probably one chain or one app. So in that case, we probably don't need chain abstraction, because you can do that. You probably use download MetaMask and kind of just use Uniswap for trading. That's easy. But once you have more users kind of digging further into the crypto ecosystem, you will see that it's extremely hard for you to use kind of multiple chain and use multiple app. It doesn't make a lot of sense for a user to download 10 different wallet or 10 different kind of app. Using that through each wallet, that makes things extremely hard. So I think that's how chain abstraction come into place. So I mean, we are still at relatively early stage for kind of solving the problem. And I think this is extremely important because there are two ways basically to improve our industry. The first is as I said, is bring the users kind of outside the crypto space into the crypto space, which, Bitcoin ETF, Ethereum ETF is doing a great job about onboarding more people. But more importantly is letting the people in the industry using kind of more than one protocol or one app. So it's more about turning a single chain users to a multi-chain user, single app user to a multi-chain users. Then, that's why chain abstraction become much more important. I think we still have a lot of room for the chain abstraction to make improvement, make everyone is extremely easy to actually using multiple dApp on multiple chain.
Okay, so I mean, highlighting the point is more first getting more users on, and two is really improving the user experience so they can actually do stuff across all the ecosystems, things like that.
Right.
Richard?
Yeah, so in some senses, chain abstraction is one of those capabilities that is just extremely necessary and kind of obvious that we need. And I think we'll look back to some degree and wonder what we were all doing for 10 years without it. But that being said, I don't think it will be a damp squib at all. I think that we've seen several examples, whether it be Sweat or Cosmos, or I was looking at a ticketing example just now, of the potential to onboard folks who existing customer bases and to segue them into the Web3 world once we have a user experience that is acceptable to folks who really do not care whether they're using Web3 at all, let alone which chain they're using. But what they do care about, whatever, is a service where they can, operate within say a secondary ticket market where scalping is not taking place, and they're kind of like, to take a UK example, where they don't have to pay over the odds for their Oasis tickets, which just got launched recently and caused a lot of kind of controversy. They care about that value, and so the usability has got to be there to support that. I think, and maybe we'll come back to it in kind of more in a detail afterwards, because I agree with James has covered comprehensively a lot of the kind of the core advantages, but I do think that there will be some applications we can imagine now that were just not possible before you had chain abstraction. For example, a core one might be if I have assets across multiple chains. Maybe that I'm even staking, they've got different sort of slashing conditions applying to them, that I might be able to kind of pool all of those into one aggregated asset base and then borrow against it, hypothecate it. An app that allowed you to do that on a continuous basis, and maybe advised you of the best way to do that as well, from which lending protocol to use to optimize yield, for example. That would be really fascinating. And if you could do that in a way that was Web 2 digestible, I think you'd start moving us towards the mainstream billions that we're all targeting.
So I kind of love that point. Sounds like Richard has been within the Near ecosystem for a while, because he highlighted multiple points where I think we have really driven home in terms of, I guess, easy onboarding, and really focused on identifying users that don't really know they're even in Web3, right? And so I think that's the core, learning per se of going through, let's say, doing BD in Web3 for the last 2-3 years, and highlighting those factors, right? And so we'll go to Colton and see, I guess, what's your take? Do you have anything different you want to present, or kind of what do you got?
Yeah, I think my opinion on this is that it's all about the user experience and UX, and that's what chain abstraction is really going to revolutionize. If you think about where crypto was just a couple of years ago, we were still trying to build cheaper, more efficient block space. And that's why Near originally was so popular, especially among investors, because of the innovation of sharding and being able to have a blockchain that scales so efficiently. Now we have basically commoditized that block space. So you're not going to differentiate yourself as much by just offering cheap, fast block space to people. Instead, you're going to differentiate yourself by offering access to interesting applications that people want to use. And if you're an application, I think that chain abstraction is the best thing that's going to happen for the application layer specifically, because you're going to have users who previously, they wouldn't have wanted to jump through a bunch of hoops and have to do like 10 clicks and a whole research project in order to figure out how to actually onboard onto your app, let alone use it. Instead, you can have all of this in a unified experience somewhere in a wallet that somebody makes it really easy to onboard with, or maybe you don't even need to be managing your private keys, and you could be signing with an application that's built on some different signature curve. So I think that there's a lot of really cool applications that are going to come out of this, and it'll be the best thing ever for actually getting users into those applications. And so that's why I'm really excited about what Near's working on with their chain abstraction solution, is because they could basically be that funnel that then gives access to all of this other block space elsewhere. So regardless of where the liquidity is at, I don't think it really matters that you get unified liquidity once you have chain abstraction. It makes the user experience very easy, and then you eventually get to the point where you don't even realize that you're using Web3, and you can put it in an iPhone app, and it looks the same and feels the same as if you were using Robinhood or something like that.
So I think user experience is always something that's been really brought up, and that's why you see so much infra that's been invested in by VCs like yourself to really see how we can onboard more users to this point, right? And I think that's something that, we have concluded that, we definitely need to improve on and really add more value to, right?
Can I try like a different take on that? Like, we can all agree vigorously about the importance of the user experience and how this is just necessary to get to the next level. But actually, there's another argument that, do we really care about the user? So I think there's one argument that, in particular, and this is relevant to Redacted and to Near's mission to deliver on a chain that's eminently suitable for AI and to deliver on user-owned AI, is that the user part of the web, the human web, is going to be microscopic in comparison to the machine web, the agentic sort of part of the web, and I kind of lent on a few people to ask them of things that might be new things that are possible in this sort of new chain signatures environment or chain abstraction environment, and one would be ensuring that you have sensor-resistant, verifiable agents within this environment on chain, using chain abstraction, chain signatures in particular. And if you think about it, if we're going to, and actually sort of a kind of a side point, I stumbled into this thing. I don't think I've actually used it on stage before, but I've mentioned to a couple of people. People talk at different rates, but the average human communicates at 40 bits per second. Obviously the machine web is going to be, many thousands of orders of magnitude faster than that. So just to give an idea of how different it's going to be to people trying to envisage what this is going to look like. And I think that's what we're building towards. And I think in particular, the intersection of AI and Web3 is about that machine web. So having an environment that is trustless, or rather you can trust the agents to be doing what you think they're meant to be doing, is going to be absolutely crucial. So I think that's an interesting one as well.
So I wanted to highlight, so I mean, that's kind of crucial in this topic as well, because we're highlighting kind of the DeFi aspect and how maybe those agents, how chain abstraction all kind of runs into that. And I'm sure we're all familiar with the current landscape of the DeFi applications and kind of where that goes. So I would love to talk a little bit more on that point too. On James, what's your take on the current DeFi side? What do you see, would be more interesting next? Because I think the playbook that we've seen currently has been just rinse and repeat and not as exciting, right? So
yeah, I think DeFi have a very, very good future. I mean, if you just take a look at the data, right now we have about like 100 billion in TVL, but at the peak of 2021, we have 180. So if we going to hit a new all-time high, it's probably going to grow their TVL to another 80%, which is a lot. So I believe we will see the all-time high for the TVL in this cycle. The other good things it's probably more like it's a little bit non-crypto things. I think Trump get elected as the president of the United States, and he fully supporting self-custody. I think this is actually very, very important for the infrastructure for DeFi, because as some stage in the past few years, we discussed about maybe the potential KYCs for people to using like decentralized apps, which I believe will be a bad thing for these kind of, because you basically limited people's rights to using that. But right now, I think with all the policy being very friendly and the president of US supporting self-custody, I think DeFi do have very, very futures, and have a solid foundation from outside, because they give you a very, very good environment to grow. And on the other things, we will have still new application in the DeFi space to come. For example, Siena, in this circle doing pretty good. So it's not like we are all relying on the previous like app like DEX, lending protocols, but we are seeing new kind of application coming to space on the DeFi space. Mm-hmm. So I think this is also a good thing that we will see both innovation and on the policy side. So I personally, I think DeFi will probably see a very, very very important growth in the future. We have probably 3 only applications exceed like a 10 billion TVL right now, including Lido, RV, and the other one I forgot. But I think we should have probably at least Uniswap and a few others hit like $10 billion TVL to in the next few months. So this is actually my take on the DeFi space right now. I'm very, very bullish on it.
Okay. Colton, yeah, what's your take in terms of, I guess, how maybe chain abstraction can change it or innovate it or come up with the new applications that James kind of highlighted? Did you have any view on what might be exciting for you?
Yeah, I think that ultimately, my opinion is still that chain abstraction is more of an access point to these apps rather than it's going to create a ton of novel primitives. I think that maybe you could end up creating an application if it doesn't rely on having a bunch of liquidity in one spot. You could take primitives and make them multi-chain much more easily. But ultimately, you're not going to invent a new way to trade because of chain abstraction. You're going to invent a new way of getting people to access that trading experience through chain abstraction and wrapping it in something nice that people can actually understand. And I think that user experience point is a massive point of friction. Like, I try and get my dad to use DeFi, and he was actually the one who originally got me interested in Bitcoin back when I was in high school, but he'd only ever used a centralized exchange before. And he's a really smart guy, but it took him a long time of walking through with me, how to set up your wallet, what to sign, all the safety things you have to look out for, what not to be signing. And if you had an application that just said, here's a set of intents that are going to basically define the boundaries of what your account can do, or it's going to set up a set of objectives, you just have to review that, and then you click, and then all of a sudden that's deployed into this custom-built strategy that you chose. That's a much easier way, I think, to interact with these DeFi applications than, all right, I need to swap token A for token B so I can deploy that into this protocol, and then I borrow, and then I loop 10 times, and I spend 30 minutes clicking through. And then I have to move that to another chain where there's another app that I want to use. Chain abstraction gets rid of all of that workflow.
It's a real life game, clicking buttons, right, guys?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you make money in this world, apparently.
So Mark, I'm going to have to respectfully disagree and push back again. I think we keep on sort of focusing our attention on just the user experience and talking about it for humans, and even saying that we don't think there are going to be new ways of trading. I think, and we touched upon it a little bit of this in kind of preparation, I think we're underestimating, the kind of core power of the kind of, should we say, the Web3 movement is to be able to create marketplaces for different assets, including, possibly data assets and non-fungible assets. And at the moment, we've struggled even, for example, on native non-fungible assets to create the liquidity that we need. I think we're underestimating the power that reaching a certain threshold of liquidity has in terms of things like price discovery and people's comfort with using those, trading within those markets, and therefore in that given market coming up with new trading strategies, because there's be something esoteric about that. There'll be data relating to that market that is going to be different. That means there are new trading strategies because they're different assets. And so I think again, we're looking at our feet and missing the kind of the broader opportunity. The couple of $100 billion kind of assets that we've currently, native digital assets we've currently got on chain is microscopic. Maybe it's less than 1,000% of all of the assets around the world, commonly called amusingly in our space called real world assets. They're just the assets in the world. And so I think the opportunity to tap into those where they're often non-fungible, and therefore liquidity, I would argue, getting to better liquidity because you can aggregate it and pool it using chain abstraction is going to be a really powerful catalyst. I'm not dismissing the fact that better UI for that and better ways of kind of onboarding the assets and tokenizing is important, and better regulation. Yeah. But it's going to be, I think, a really important catalyst.
Yeah, I mean,
can I respond to that?
Yeah.
So I think you made this point that right now there's 200 billion or something of liquidity on chain, which is microscopic compared to what's out there. But if you're arguing that you need chain abstraction so you can aggregate that 200 billion that's already microscopic, I don't think that really gets you anywhere. The real issue is you need all of the other trillions of assets that are out there to be brought on chain. And so if you're arguing that chain abstraction is going to aggregate liquidity from other chains, but it's aggregating this microscopic puddle, then that's actually not solving the problem.
I've not communicated what I'm saying properly then. What I'm saying is that we don't know which networks and which chains are going to bring the real-world assets on chain. But most likely, it's not going to be one chain that does it. It's going to be we're going to still exist in a multi-chain world because there's a reason for that specialization, and there'll be a particular capability and app built, whether it be real estate or forex or whatever. We already see that, obviously, and so therefore they will be brought on board. But then we can aggregate them between different chains and different players because we've got chain abstraction.
So the argument is basically that you're future-proofing all of these chains, so no matter where the growth happens, we're ready for it.
Correct. You're kind of putting it together.
Yeah, we're catalyzing the growth because we're ready for it across many different chains. Exactly. Yeah.
I think that makes more sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it was my fault.
I mean, I didn't see that you guys were on opposite sides. I think you guys were more talking about two different points, right? And at the end of the day, I think all of us clearly agree that we do need more assets on chain, and from there, how do we ensure that in order for there to be more assets on chain, we need to find a way to make it easier for everyone to access, everyone to use, and even transferring it across different boards, right? And so we're kind of running up on time with our last 3 minutes here. Would love to see or ask, I guess, what would you guys like to see within chain abstraction, maybe being live or that users could use and that could really bring on the large volumes that you guys speak of here? We'll start with James.
Yeah, I think the super app, when near there is extremely good. I think there's a lot of things has to be improved, on different wallet. I mean, when I use the Near wallet, I feel like whether it's Mint-based and others, I think that's have very good user experience. So for people extremely new to the industry, I feel like giving them the best user experience is, I think, still the most important thing for them to using multiple app. People are just, I'm not criticized, but just people are getting too lazy about doing things. If I ask me to download another app, download another wallet, maybe I refuse to do that just because I'm lazy, they are not using that. But giving them the best user experience do solve the problem. I think Near is extremely good on this. And I feel like next year will be a very, very important year for Near chain abstraction, become probably, could be the highlight of the market. Don't get me wrong, I'm a pretty big fan of AI. I'm kind of AI maxi. I know what Near does in the AI space is impressive about the ecosystem, but I really do think chain abstraction on Near next year is going to be a super important thing, and that could be a more realistic or more feasible things to achieve next year for Near, and this could be the highlight for the Near and for the ecosystem.
I mean, that's a great point. I just want to add, because I know we have about 40 seconds left for everyone, but chain abstraction is either the kind of the stepstone to kind of what Richard highlighted earlier in terms of having millions of AI agents to really transact. And it's not just swapping and but it's more transacting, whether it might be real world goods, helping you buy e-commerce, helping you pay for things. Like that's the whole, stepping stone of how chain abstraction will lead to that. And it's not separate. It's not two different verticals, it's not two different things. It actually is all aligned with a long-term vision. So 40 seconds, Richard.
Yeah, so I'm going to stick to my guns and pick, in particular, real estate as real-world asset. Very big difference between different markets. Hurricane risk in London not the same as Florida. And from personal experience, it's like such a broken market in terms of information. At the moment, because it's not on chain, because you can't trust the rest of it, and it's all siloed in a horrible, horrible way. Mm-hmm. If we could catalyze getting that on chain, I think that would be good. And I think, as I said, that taps into one of the real superpowers of the space to bring more radically perfect markets to bear on the world. And I was trying to take an opposite position here, but I was just taking a leaf out of Michael Arrington's book from my history.
All right. Colton?
Well, I think in that example where we're bringing all these real-world assets on chain, which I do think will accelerate a ton now that we're going to see an administration that's much more friendly from a regulatory perspective. Like we could actually have this happen. I would love to see those real estate assets be brought into the DeFi ecosystem, and I think that'd be really value additive to crypto as a whole, because that's where like this big liquidity influx is coming from that you're talking about. And once we're able to unlock that, people are able to start borrowing against it, trading it more freely. I think we're really going to see an explosion of activity.
Without
And
having to talk to the bank.
without having to talk to the bank or have any
I
sort
think
of
that's the
middleman.
point. We need more activity, guys.
Yeah.
We need more
Yeah.
things to do. So thank you, everyone, for your time. I think we're out of time here, but I hope you guys enjoyed our discussion, and thank you, everyone here on the panel.
Yeah, thank you.
Everyone.